It was a beautiful spring day as Captain Richard Wilson and his co-pilot, Emily Summers, prepared for their routine flight from Los Angeles to Seattle. The two experienced pilots went through their pre-flight checklist with practiced efficiency, ensuring the small private jet was ready to take to the skies. As the passengers quickly boarded, Captain Wilson greeted each one with a warm smile. "Welcome aboard, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking. We have a smooth flight ahead of us today and expect to arrive in Seattle right on schedule." The plane taxied down the runway and smoothly lifted into the air. Richard and Emily settled in comfortably, keeping a close eye on the instruments as they climbed to their cruising altitude. It was shaping up to be just another day at the office for the veteran pilots. In the cabin, 12-year-old Johnny gazed out the window, watching the patchwork of neighborhoods and highways shrink below. He was on his way home from a family vacation and couldn't wait to see his friends again. Johnny loved flying. His uncle, a former Air Force pilot, had taken him up in small planes a few times, teaching him the basics of flight. As the plane sliced through the clear skies, Captain Wilson felt a sudden, piercing pain in his chest. He gripped the controls, struggling to maintain focus, but the searing discomfort was overwhelming. "Emily," he gasped, his voice strained. "Take the controls. I'm not feeling well." Emily's eyes went wide as she watched her captain slump forward, unconscious. Richard, can you hear me?" she cried, reaching across to shake his shoulder. But it was no use. Richard had suffered a massive heart attack and was unresponsive. Panic began to set in as Emily realized the dire situation they now faced. The plane was cruising at an altitude of 30,000 feet, and she was now solely responsible for piloting the aircraft safely to the ground. Her hands trembled as she fought to maintain control of the yoke, her heart pounding in her chest. In the cabin, the passengers had begun to murmur nervously, sensing that something was wrong up front. Johnny noticed the commotion and craned his neck, trying to get a better view of the cockpit. Suddenly, the plane lurched violently, sending several passengers stumbling down the aisle. "Ladies and gentlemen, remain calm," the flight attendant called out, her own voice betraying her rising anxiety. "The captain is indisposed, but the co-pilot is handling the situation. Please stay in your seats with your seatbelts fastened." Johnny gripped the armrests, his knuckles turning white. He had a sinking feeling that this was no ordinary flight delay. As the plane continued to pitch and yaw, he caught a glimpse of the co-pilot's face. It was etched with pure terror. Unbuckling his seatbelt, Johnny slowly made his way up the aisle towards the cockpit. He could see the co-pilot struggling to maintain control, her brow furrowed in concentration. Summoning his courage, Johnny stepped inside the small cabin. "What's happening? What's wrong with the captain?" he asked, his voice quivering. The co-pilot spared him a brief glance. "The captain has had a medical emergency. I'm doing my best to fly the plane, but I need you to return to your seat, young man. It's not safe up here." Johnny's mind raced. He remembered the lessons his uncle had taught him, the hours spent in the cockpit of his small Cessna. Could he really help in this dire situation? Taking a deep breath, Johnny moved closer to the co-pilot. "Please, let me try. I know how to fly. My uncle taught me." The co-pilot, Emily Summers, stared at the young boy in disbelief. "You know how to fly?" she asked, her voice laced with desperation and uncertainty. Johnny nodded quickly. "Yes, ma'am. My uncle's a pilot, and he's taught me a lot. Please, let me try. I can help." Emily hesitated for a moment, weighing her options. With the captain unconscious and the plane rapidly losing altitude, she had little choice but to accept the boy's offer. Swallowing her trepidation, she gestured to the co-pilot's seat. "All right, hop in, but be very careful and listen to everything I say." Johnny practically leaped into the seat, his small hands gripping the controls. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest as the adrenaline coursed through him. This was no longer a leisurely flight with his uncle. This was a life-or-death situation, and he knew he had to stay focused. "Okay, keep the nose up," Emily instructed, her voice calm but strained. "Gently ease back on the yoke. That's it. Now check our altitude and airspeed." Johnny's eyes darted from one instrument to the next, his brow furrowed in concentration. "We're at 28,000 feet, and our speed is 320 knots, he reported. Good. Now start a gentle descent, but be careful not to lose control. Slowly, Johnny eased the plane into a gradual descent, his movements measured and precise. Emily watched him intently, ready to take over if the situation became too much for the young boy to handle. In the cabin, the passengers had fallen silent, their faces etched with worry. They could feel the plane's unsteady movements, and the lack of communication from the cockpit only served to heighten their fear. Suddenly, the plane lurched sharply to the left, causing several people to cry out in alarm. Johnny gripped the controls tightly, fighting to regain control. "What happened?" he asked, his voice quavering. "Wind shear," Emily replied tersely. "Keep the wings level and reduce our descent rate. We need to maintain a stable approach." Johnny nodded, his small hands working the controls with surprising dexterity. Despite his youth and inexperience, he was drawing upon every bit of knowledge his uncle had imparted, applying it with a focus and determination that belied his years. As the plane continued its descent, Emily monitored the instruments closely, barking out occasional instructions to the young co-pilot. "Adjust your heading by 5 degrees to the right. Airspeed is a bit too high, reduce throttle slightly." Johnny followed her guidance without hesitation, his movements becoming more confident with each passing minute. The plane was steadying, its descent now controlled and smooth. Emily felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps, against all odds, they could pull this off. But as the ground loomed closer, a new challenge presented itself. "Runway in sight," she announced, her voice tight with tension. "But there's a lot of crosswind. This is going to be a tricky landing, Johnny. I need you to listen very closely to my instructions." Johnny nodded, his eyes fixed on the rapidly approaching runway. "I'm ready," he replied, his voice surprisingly steady. Emily took a deep breath and began issuing a rapid series of commands. "Adjust your heading by 10 degrees to the left. Reduce throttle to 50%. Flaps at 20 degrees. Maintain a steady descent rate of 500 feet per minute." Johnny's small fingers danced across the controls, his movements fluid and precise. The plane responded to his touch, its descent slowing as it aligned with the runway. "Good, good. Keep it steady, Johnny. We're almost there." The plane's tires touched down on the runway with a sharp thud, the landing gear absorbing the impact. Johnny fought to keep the aircraft centered, his muscles straining as he battled the powerful crosswinds. "Gently apply the brakes," Emily instructed, her voice calm and steady. "That's it, nice and easy. You're doing great, Johnny." As the plane slowed to a crawl, Johnny finally allowed himself to exhale. They had made it. Against all odds, he had successfully landed the aircraft. Unbidden, tears of relief sprang to his eyes. In the cabin, the passengers erupted into cheers and applause, their fear and tension giving way to joyous disbelief. They had witnessed an incredible feat of skill and composure, performed by a young boy who had stepped up in the face of a life-threatening crisis. Emergency crews rushed to the plane as it came to a complete stop, their sirens wailing. The passengers disembarked quickly, many of them embracing Johnny and showering him with praise and gratitude. "You saved our lives, son," one man exclaimed, shaking Johnny's hand vigorously. "I don't know how to thank you." Johnny blushed, suddenly self-conscious. "I was just trying to help," he stammered. "Is the captain going to be okay?" Emily, who had been speaking with the emergency responders, approached the young hero. "The captain has been rushed to the hospital," she said, her expression grave. "He's in critical condition, but the doctors are hopeful they'll pull through." Johnny's heart sank. "This is all my fault," he murmured. "If only I had done something sooner." Emily placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Don't blame yourself, Johnny. You saved this plane and everyone on board. You should be proud of what you've accomplished today." The boy nodded, but the weight of the situation still hung heavily on him. He couldn't help but wonder what would have happened if he hadn't stepped up when he did. The thought of the plane crashing, of all those lives being lost, was almost too much to bear. As the commotion around them continued, Emily led Johnny to a quiet corner. "I know this has been an incredibly traumatic experience," she said softly, "but you need to understand that you are a hero. What you did today was nothing short of extraordinary." Johnny looked up at the co-pilot, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "I was so scared," he admitted. "I didn't know if I could do it, but I had to try." Emily smiled warmly. "And that's what makes you a true hero, Johnny. You faced your fears and did what was necessary to save lives. Not many adults could have done what you did today. The boy's lips curved into a small, tentative smile. Do you really think so? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I know so, Emily replied with conviction. You should be proud of yourself. Your actions today will inspire people for years to come. Johnny felt a surge of pride and humility wash over him. He had never imagined himself in such a position, thrust into the role of a hero. But as he looked around at the grateful faces of the passengers, he knew that he had done the right thing. What happens now? He asked, suddenly aware of the weight of his actions. Emily took a deep breath. Well, I imagine the authorities will want to speak with you, and there will be a lot of media attention. But most importantly, you're going to be celebrated as the brave young man who saved this flight. Your life is about to change in ways you can't even imagine. Johnny nodded slowly, his mind racing with the implications of what had just occurred. He had faced his greatest fear and emerged victorious, proving that even a child could rise to the occasion in the face of overwhelming adversity. As he looked towards the future, he couldn't help but feel a renewed sense of purpose and determination. In the aftermath of the harrowing flight, Johnny quickly found himself thrust into the national spotlight. News of the 12-year-old's heroic actions had spread like wildfire, captivating the public's imagination. Within hours, reporters and camera crews had descended upon the small regional airport, eager to speak with the young hero. Johnny, still grappling with the magnitude of what he had accomplished, was initially overwhelmed by the attention. I just did what I had to do, he told one reporter, his voice soft and humble. I'm just glad I was able to help. Emily, the co-pilot, stood by Johnny's side, guiding him through the onslaught of questions and interviews. She marveled at the boy's composure, especially given the trauma he had just endured. Johnny is an exceptional young man, she told the gathered media. His quick thinking and skill under pressure saved the lives of everyone on that plane. He's a true hero, and I'm honored to have had him as my co-pilot today. The accolades and praise continued to pour in as news of Johnny's feat spread. Aviation experts and retired pilots lauded the boy's actions, applauding his ability to maintain control of the aircraft despite his young age and lack of experience. What he did was nothing short of remarkable, said Captain David Wilkins, a 30-year veteran of the skies. Most adults would have been paralyzed by fear in that situation, but this kid kept his cool and landed that plane safely. He's got a real future in aviation, that's for sure. Even the authorities, initially skeptical of the incredible story, were left in awe. Johnny was summoned to the local police station, where he was carefully questioned about the events of the flight. But rather than being treated as a suspect, the boy was showered with admiration and respect. You've done a great service to your community, young man, the chief of police told him. We're all incredibly proud of you. As the media frenzy continued, Johnny's family was thrust into the spotlight as well. His parents, initially overwhelmed by the attention, quickly embraced their son's newfound fame, recognizing the incredible opportunity it presented. We always knew Johnny was a special kid, his mother, Sarah, told reporters. But what he did today, it's just incredible. We're so proud of him, and we're grateful that he was able to save all those lives. Johnny's uncle, a former Air Force pilot, was equally effusive in his praise. I've been teaching Johnny the basics of flying for years, but I never imagined he'd have to put those skills to the test in such a dramatic way, he said. He's a natural, and I have no doubt that he's got a bright future in aviation. With the captain still in critical condition, the aviation authorities were keen to debrief Johnny and understand the details of his daring actions. They peppered him with questions, marveling at his composure and decision-making under extreme duress. You made the right call, son, one investigator told him. Taking control of that plane when you did was the only way to save those lives. You should be proud of yourself. Johnny nodded, still struggling to fully comprehend the gravity of his actions. He had been thrust into a life-or-death situation, forced to draw upon his limited flight experience to navigate a crisis that would have overwhelmed most adults. But somehow, he had risen to the occasion, his instincts and training guiding him through the harrowing ordeal. As the days passed, Johnny found himself the subject of countless media interviews and public appearances. He was invited to meet with aviation industry leaders, who showered him with praise and offered him once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. But despite the accolades and attention, Johnny remained humble and grounded. He knew that his actions had been driven by a profound sense of duty and a deep-seated desire to help those in need. And as he looked towards the future, he couldn't help but feel a renewed sense of purpose, a desire to continue honing his skills and making a difference in the world of aviation. In the days and weeks that followed, Johnny's life was turned upside down. The once quiet and unassuming boy had become a national hero, his face plastered across television screens and newspaper headlines. As the media's attention intensified, Johnny found himself overwhelmed by the constant stream of interviews, photo ops, and public appearances. He had gone from a typical pre-teen to a sought-after public figure, and the adjustment was not an easy one. It's all happened so fast, Johnny confessed to his uncle, a man who had first ignited his passion for aviation. I just want things to go back to normal. His uncle, a retired Air Force pilot, placed a reassuring hand on the boy's shoulder. I know it's a lot to take in, Johnny, but what you did on that plane was extraordinary. You saved countless lives, and you deserve to be recognized for your bravery and skill. Johnny nodded, but the weight of his newfound fame weighed heavily on him. He had never sought the spotlight, and the constant scrutiny and demands on his time left him feeling drained and uneasy. Everyone keeps telling me I'm a hero, he said, his voice tinged with uncertainty. But I'm just a kid. I wasn't even sure if I could do it, but I had to try. I couldn't just sit back and watch the plane crash. The uncle smiled, his eyes shining with pride. And that's exactly what makes you a hero, Johnny. You didn't hesitate, you didn't let fear hold you back. You stepped up when it mattered most, and you saved the day. Johnny sighed, his gaze drifting to the window. I guess, but now everyone wants a piece of me. I can't even go to the store without being recognized and asked for autographs. It's a lot, you know. Sensing his nephew's unease, the uncle pulled him into a warm embrace. I know, kiddo, but you're going to get through this. And when the dust settles, you're going to have some incredible opportunities ahead of you. The boy nodded, his mind racing with the possibilities. In the days since the incident, he had been inundated with offers, scholarships to prestigious flight schools, invitations to meet with aviation industry leaders, and even the chance to become a consultant for a major airline. What if I don't want any of that? Johnny asked, his brow furrowed in concern. What if I just want to be a normal kid again? His uncle considered this for a moment, then replied, Then that's exactly what you should do. You don't owe anyone anything, Johnny. You've already done more than most people could ever dream of. If you want to go back to your normal life, no one can fault you for that. Johnny felt a weight lift from his shoulders, and a small smile tugged at the corners of his lips. Thanks, Uncle Dave. I think that's what I need to do. At least for now. I just want some time to process everything that's happened. With his uncle's support and encouragement, Johnny began to chart a path forward that felt true to himself. He graciously declined most of the high-profile offers, opting instead to focus on his studies and reconnecting with his friends. Though the media's interest in him remained high, Johnny steadfastly refused to be drawn back into the spotlight. He was determined to reclaim this sense of normalcy, to find a way to move forward without being defined solely by his heroic actions on that fateful flight. As the weeks turned into months, Johnny's story began to fade from the public eye, but the impact of his bravery and quick thinking would continue to resonate, inspiring generations of young aviators to come. And for Johnny, the experience had instilled in him a newfound confidence and sense of purpose, one that would shape the rest of his life in ways he could scarcely imagine. As the months passed, Johnny's incredible story slowly faded from the national spotlight. But for the young hero, the impact of his actions would continue to resonate in profound and unexpected ways. While he had initially struggled with the whirlwind of attention and media scrutiny, Johnny eventually found solace in returning to his normal routine. He dove back into his studies, reconnected with his friends, and even picked up a few new hobbies, including, of course, continuing his flight training with his uncle. It's good to see you getting back to what you love, Johnny, his uncle remarked one day as they prepared for a practice session in the skies. Aviation is in your blood, and I know you've got a real passion for it. Johnny nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. It helps to have some stability, you know? After everything that happened, I just needed to feel like a normal kid again. His uncle chuckled, giving the boy's shoulder a gentle squeeze. I understand, but don't forget, you're anything but normal. What you did on that plane was extraordinary, and it's changed the course of your life forever. Johnny sighed, his gaze drifting towards the horizon. I know, and I'm grateful for the opportunities that have come my way, but sometimes I just wish I could go back to being that little kid who dreamed of flying without all the fame and pressure. That's understandable, his uncle replied sympathetically. But you can't ignore the impact you've had, Johnny. You're an inspiration to so many people, and your story has the power to change lives. As they took to the skies, Johnny couldn't help but reflect on the whirlwind of the past year. He had gone from a casual student of aviation to a bona fide hero, his actions capturing the imagination of the entire country. And while he still grappled with the weight of that responsibility, he couldn't deny the deep sense of pride and purpose that had taken root within him. It was during those quiet moments in the air that Johnny felt most at peace. Up here, among the clouds, he was just a boy living out his dreams. No reporters, no cameras, no expectations to live up to. Here, he was free to simply be himself, to revel in the pure joy of flight. As the months turned into years, Johnny's passion for aviation only deepened. He excelled in his studies, earning top grades and accolades from his teachers and mentors. And when the time came to apply for college, there was no doubt in his mind where he wanted to go: the prestigious Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, a renowned institution for aspiring pilots and aerospace engineers. Johnny's application was bolstered not only by his stellar academic record, but also by the incredible story of his heroic actions on that fateful flight. Admissions officers were enthralled by his poise and quick thinking, and they eagerly welcomed him into their program with a full scholarship. "We're honored to have you join our community, Johnny," the university president said during the acceptance ceremony. "Your story is an inspiration to us all, and we can't wait to see what you'll accomplish in the years to come." As Johnny accepted the award, he felt a surge of emotions: pride, humility, and a renewed sense of purpose. He knew that his journey was just beginning, and that the sacrifices he had made, the challenges he had overcome, would only serve to strengthen his resolve and propel him towards even greater heights. In the years that followed, Johnny would go on to excel in his studies, earning top honors and accolades. But more importantly, he would use his platform to inspire others, sharing his story and encouraging young people to pursue their dreams, no matter how daunting the obstacles may seem. For Johnny, the fateful day on that plane had been a turning point, a catalyst that had transformed his life in ways he could scarcely have imagined. And as he looked towards the future, he knew that his story was far from over, that the sky was the limit, and that he was poised to soar to new and unprecedented heights. As Johnny embarked on his collegiate journey at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, his incredible story continued to captivate the public's imagination. Though he had initially shied away from the spotlight, the young pilot in training soon found himself once again in high demand. Invitations to speak at aviation conferences, career fairs, and even TED talks began to pour in, with organizers eager to hear first-hand accounts of Johnny's heroic actions on that fateful flight. Despite his initial hesitation, the young man eventually came to embrace these opportunities, recognizing the powerful impact his story could have on aspiring aviators. "When I look back on that day, I still can't believe I was the one behind the controls," Johnny would often tell his rapt audiences. "But in that moment, I knew I had to do everything in my power to save those lives. It was the scariest thing I've ever done, but also the most rewarding." His words, delivered with a poise and maturity beyond his years, resonated deeply with those who heard them. Aspiring pilots, both young and old, were inspired by Johnny's story, drawn to the idea that even a child could rise to the occasion and become a hero. "Johnny's story shows us that it's not just about technical skills and knowledge," remarked one seasoned commercial pilot, who had invited Johnny to speak at a company event. "It's about having the courage and presence of mind to act when the stakes are highest. That's the kind of pilot we need in this industry." As Johnny's reputation continued to grow, he found himself increasingly sought after by the aviation industry's movers and shakers. CEOs, airline executives, and even government officials reached out, eager to pick the young man's brain and tap into the insights he had gained from his harrowing experience. "What you did that day was nothing short of remarkable," one high-ranking transportation official told him during a private meeting. "We'd be honored to have you join our team and help us shape the future of aviation safety." Johnny listened intently, his mind racing with the possibilities. Though he had initially shied away from the spotlight, he now found himself captivated by the idea of using his platform to make a real difference in the industry he loved. "I'm flattered by the offer, sir," he replied, his voice measured and thoughtful. "Right now, my focus is on completing my studies and becoming the best pilot I can be. I want to make sure I have the skills and knowledge to truly make a meaningful impact." The official nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. "I admire your dedication, son, and I have no doubt that you'll achieve great things in this field. When the time is right, we'll be here, waiting to welcome you with open arms." As Johnny navigated the halls of Embry-Riddle, he found himself constantly in awe of the opportunities that had been presented to him. From prestigious internships at leading aviation companies to invitations to join exclusive industry organizations, the young man was quickly becoming a rising star in the world of aviation. Yet, despite the accolades and the attention, Johnny remained grounded and humble. He knew that his success was not solely the result of his heroic actions, but rather the product of years of hard work, dedication, and a genuine passion for the skies. "I'm just doing what I love," he would often tell his peers and mentors. "And if I can use my story to inspire others and make a difference, then that's the greatest reward I could ever ask for." As Johnny's collegiate journey progressed, the world watched with bated breath, eager to see what the young hero would accomplish next. And with each passing year, it became increasingly clear that Johnny's impact was only just beginning, that his story would continue to resonate for generations to come, inspiring countless others to reach for the stars. As the years passed, Johnny's exceptional journey continued to unfold in ways that both surprised and inspired those around him. The once reluctant hero had fully embraced his role as a trailblazer and mentor, using his platform to make a profound impact on the aviation industry. Upon graduating from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University with top honors, Johnny's talents and experiences quickly caught the eye of several leading airlines. He found himself fielding offers from around the world, each company eager to bring the young pilot-turned-celebrity into their ranks. "We'd be honored to have you join our team, Johnny," one airline executive told him during a recruitment meeting. "Your story and your skills are exactly what we need to take our operations to the next level." Johnny listened intently, weighing the pros and cons of each opportunity. He knew that the decision he made would not only shape his own future, but potentially that of the entire industry. After careful consideration, he ultimately accepted a position with a major international carrier, eager to put his expertise and vision to the test. In the years that followed, Johnny quickly rose through the ranks, becoming one of the youngest captains in the company's history. His unwavering dedication, combined with the invaluable insights he had gained from his harrowing experience, made him an invaluable asset to the airline. "Johnny's not just a talented pilot, he's a true innovator," the company's CEO remarked during a stockholders' meeting. His ideas for improving safety protocols and enhancing the passenger experience have been nothing short of revolutionary. Beyond his duties as a pilot, Johnny also found himself increasingly involved in the industry's policymaking and advocacy efforts. He lent his voice to various initiatives aimed at improving aviation safety, promoting diversity and inclusivity, and inspiring the next generation of aviators. Johnny's story has touched so many lives, one aviation industry analyst observed. "He's become a living embodiment of the resilience and bravery that we strive for in this field. His influence is felt far beyond the cockpit." Indeed, Johnny's impact extended well beyond the confines of the airline industry. He became a sought-after speaker, sharing his story and insights at educational institutions, leadership conferences, and even the prestigious TEDx stage. "When I look back on that fateful day, I'm still in awe of the courage and quick thinking that I somehow mustered," Johnny would often tell his captivated audiences. "But more than that, I'm grateful for the opportunities I've been given to make a difference in this industry I love so dearly." His words, spoken with a genuine humility and passion, resonated deeply with those who heard them. Young people, especially, were inspired by Johnny's story, seeing in him a shining example of what they could achieve through dedication, perseverance, and a willingness to face their fears. "Johnny's not just a pilot, he's a role model," one high school student remarked after attending one of his speaking engagements. "He's shown us that even the most daunting challenges can be overcome, and that sometimes the smallest among us can become the biggest heroes." As Johnny's career and influence continued to soar, he remained grounded and committed to making a lasting impact. He mentored up-and-coming pilots, advocated for industry reforms, and used his platform to champion causes close to his heart, such as STEM education and aviation scholarships for underprivileged youth. In the end, Johnny's story became a testament to the power of resilience, courage, and the unwavering determination to make a difference. From that fateful day on the plane to his ongoing legacy as a trailblazer and industry leader, his journey had inspired countless others to reach for the skies and never lose sight of their dreams. And as he looked towards the future, Johnny knew that his story was far from over, that the limitless expanse of the heavens lay before him, waiting to be conquered by the once unassuming boy who had risen to the occasion and proven that even the youngest among us can become the bravest of heroes.